Well, it's been a while since I've made a video, but I'm back. Today, I'm going to be investigating an analog horror series called The Parallel by Elsie. Before diving into the series itself, we'll look at the description of the playlist itself. It reads, "In a universe parallel to ours, seemingly everything is exactly the same as our universe, except for one thing. Planet Earth in this universe with horrifying entities that torment humanity." This description already gives us a basis on what to expect, but we'll still see what this has to offer. For around 13 seconds, the person here is just sitting, nothing really going on. But then the screen goes black, and then a few seconds later, there's the entity just standing there. It's better to assume the person here is definitely dead, but there's not much else to say about this video, so we'll go on to the next one. This is the shortest video in the playlist, but it consists of an entity, a different one, saying, "I can see you." Again, there's not much to say about this video, so we'll move on to the next one. This video starts off with just somebody looking outside a window, but then it glitches with an entity outside. Then the entity proceeds to say, "Endless suffering for you, limitless fun for us." Hey, that's the thumbnail. By the entity's last words, it's clear that the torment of humanity is fun to them. But again, nothing else to say for this video, so we'll move on to the next one. This next video starts out with a warning saying that the following recovered video has been tampered with by an unknown third-party source. It then goes on with a video from the Cythera Psychological Research Foundation. It later asks the viewer if they feel a few things while glitching out. Hello viewer, do you often feel sad or depressed? Feel constantly anxious? Feel miserably hopeless? Feel an overwhelming sense of fear and dread? Feel trapped in your own mind? Well, worry not. In this short video, we will run through 4 simple tests to help you enjoy life. Tip 1. Stress less, breathe best. When stressed, it's always good to take a nice deep breath. A calmer mind makes it easier to handle what's in front of you. Tip 2. Move to improve. Take a short walk, stretch, or do any activity you enjoy. Even a little movement can help lift your mood. Tip 3. Connect. Don't isolate. Send a message, make a call, or spend time with someone you trust. Positive connection takes weight off of your issues. You know, these tips actually don't seem too bad. Never mind. Spoke too soon. Now, there's a bunch of pictures here, but we'll get to them later. Now, these next few seconds show somebody on their bed, just sleeping peacefully. That's until the screen goes black. Yeah, there's a thunderstorm. But anyways, this entity with giant horns, I don't know what that is, but I'll just say it looks like a goat with long horns, but it just pops up there, and then, oh my god, that is brutal. Why so upset? Life is precious. Every new day you live through is a gift from God. Cherish it. We can't when you're here, because one day, your life may end. Like this poor fellow. You understand? Yes. Beautiful. What's wrong with me? Anyways, let's go over the flurry of images we saw earlier in the video. As we already know, our planet is filled with these entities, and people have theorized that their only purpose on Earth is to torment the human race in numerous ways. Then we see a photo of a bipedal stalker taken from a home webcam, which is the entity we saw in the first video. Then we see a photo of a quadrupedal stalker taken from a nature camera, which is an entity we have not seen before. Great. Stalkers, as the name implies, will find a victim and watch them for a few days before finding the perfect time to strike. When possible, the stalker will emerge and lunge at its victim, swiftly attack and kill them, and then eat them. Stalkers mainly go after children and infants, as they are easier targets, but if necessary, stalkers will also go after adults. If spotted and pursued by a stalker, do not try to outrun it. Stalkers, especially quadrupedal variants, can run up to 80 miles an hour. Instead, try to find a place to hide. If found, use a weapon such as a firearm and aim for the face. It will not kill it, but it will stun it, giving you time to escape. Ever since the formation of the United States, as well as any other country, there have been an increasing number of missing persons cases, typically revolving around children. With the dawn of the 2000s on the horizon, the cases seem to have skyrocketed. Since then, no one has found and no bodies were discovered, only a stark amount of mangled remains rarely left behind. Due to this mass amount of disappearances, authorities and government officials are starting to wonder what or who is causing this. Yo, what? I'm pretty sure it's obvious that the entities are causing these disappearances, so okay, do something with the information. Parents and loved ones are not only depressed and worried sick, but they now fear for their overall safety. We then see the photo of the virus infecting someone's TV, which is actually the entity we saw in video 2. The virus is an entity that has a tall, slender body with a long neck and a skinny, tall head. Its true size remains unknown, as it has never been physically seen. Threat: a virus, as the name implies, randomly affects any or all electronic devices in a home. The virus leaks the victim's personal information, negatively alters the contents of the device, all while scaring and taunting the victim watching. How to stop it? This attack cannot be prevented, and anyone is vulnerable to it. If your devices get infected, the best thing to do would be to wipe all the data off the device, then destroy it. Now, this video is actually the most important one we've seen so far because it reveals the most information about the entities. For starters, we learned some of these entities' names, but more importantly, not only do these entities torture and kill humans, but they also psychologically and mentally taunt them. If you don't know what I mean, just take a few looks. Firstly, the entity we saw earlier in the video says stuff like, "Every new day you live through is a gift from God. Cherish it, because one day your life may end." The entity is basically implying that you will enjoy your last days before you get brutally murdered. Now, one may argue that the entity is just implying that you'll die one day anyway, so you should just enjoy your life. However, we can clearly see that the entity killed somebody and even said, like this poor fellow. It's clearly hinting that you should just enjoy the days that were gifted from God because you'll be brutally slimed out anyway. That's literally just a way to mentally taunt somebody. But the next piece of evidence is literally the virus entity itself. The informational police tape itself literally states that the virus leaks the victim's personal information and negatively alters the content of the device, all while scaring and taunting the victim watching. This is self-explanatory because it's literally saying that the virus just haunts people. Also, let's recall the Cythera Psychological Research Foundation. We see the broadcast glitch 2 times. Now, the first one isn't too important, but the second one literally has the word "die" on top. Isn't that weird? And don't forget about the last tip literally just saying, "just give up." Now, it could just be a hacker trying to mess with people, but it'd be more fitting if it was the virus entity doing it. And if it is, then that's literally just another way to mentally and psychologically torture people. Don't forget that these entities also mainly kill babies or infants because they're the easiest to kill. Although brutal by itself, it's more brutal when you realize that the parents and people who knew those children and infants are probably crying because they have to live with the fact that their child or loved one is dead, which can psychologically and mentally challenge them. Anyways, with that being said, let's go on to the next video, which is actually the longest video in the series so far. Now, before we start with this video, there's probably a few segments from the video that appeared in the flurry of images, so we'll remove them just to make it more simple. This short guide will inform you about some of the entities we have discovered and documented thus far. So far, we have general knowledge 4 to 5 main entities, but information varies with each one. We are not entirely certain if our information is true, and there are still a lot of unanswered questions. Entity 1. Stalkers. Stalkers, as the name implies, will find a victim and watch them for some time, usually ranging from just a few hours to a few days, before finding a perfect time to strike, which is preferably any time the victim is alone. When possible, the stalker will lunge at its victim, swiftly attack and kill them, and then eat them. But there is a problem with their meal choice. Stalkers will strictly go after children and infants, as they are easier targets, but if desperate for food, stalkers will also target adults. Another problem lies in how they consume their meals. Stalkers will only kill their victims beforehand if they put up an inconveniencing fight. This means that if a victim is already weak and helpless, the stalker will waste no time with incapacitation and will eat its victim alive. With this information, it is unfortunately evident that stalkers essentially eat human children alive. This is further proven by the information provided from numerous incidents and cases that describe parents being startled awake to the sounds of broken glass doors and their child screams before hurrying into an empty bloodstained room where their child used to be. Of all the entities in disguise, stalkers are by far the biggest current threat, responsible for an exponential increase of missing persons cases in the United States and the rest of the world over the years. And two known variants are being bipedal and quadruple stalkers. There's the image we've seen before. The other one. This is a new image. And this is another new image. Now, we've read most of this, except the part where it says bipedal stalkers can run 60 to 70 miles per hour. Keep in mind, a stalker will die if shot enough amount of time, so if you possess a firearm with more power, do not hesitate to use it. Additional facts for stalkers are typically 7 to 8 feet tall. They don't seem to grow or shrink, implying that they do not have a natural life cycle, and their lifespans are entirely unknown. Now, since we've already looked at the information about the virus, we'll go on to the next entity, which is the Tormentor, which for some reason the clip is gone, so I'll just put some text here saying Entity 3 Tormentor. Despite having a similar appearance to stalkers, tormentors are an entirely different entity that possess entirely different motives. There's the first photo, then the second photo, then the third photo, and the fourth one. Unlike stalkers who only target their victims for a food source, tormentors will capture a victim usually via home invasion or whenever the victim is alone and will relentlessly torture and mutilate them, intentionally keeping them alive for as long as possible to maximize their suffering. When the victim finally passes, the tormentor will then eat the remains. These entities can run 100 plus miles per hour and move in a very erratic and unpredictable manner. They will target anyone from young to elderly and everyone in between. They are seemingly impervious to gunfire and explosives and heat. If one is in your area and locks eyes with you, there's nothing you can do to stop what's about to happen. Pray you die quickly. Additional facts are that tormentors are typically 10 to 15 feet tall. They are far more rare than stalkers. They do not pose a big of a threat on an international scale based on distant eyewitness accounts or one of those extremely rare occurrences. These entities will kill each other or seemingly anything that moves. Entities of influence are extremely rare parasitic entities that feed off of the pain and suffering inflicted on humanity by other entities. They do not directly harm humans. Now, we actually seen this image in the third video, but this one we haven't seen before. When one is in the area, they seem to influence the behavior of other entities within a 5-kilometer radius. Their influence appears to make any other entity nearby even more active, hostile, and unpredictable, in return resulting in more chaos, more suffering, and fatality of human victims. Not much else is known about this entity, as it has only been reportedly seen 4 times and visually documented twice, as already seen. Additional facts are the tallest entity was about 35 feet inches in height but can vary. In one of the reported sightings, the eyewitness stated that he heard the entity talk to him in an unsettling whispering voice stating endless suffering for you, limitless fun for us, which was in the third video. This is the entity we saw in video 4, but there's not a lot of information, especially because it was discovered recently. Now, the rest of the video mentions about a video that contains the entity, which again was in video 4. Then the video ends off with a warning to be careful from these entities, and the video ends. Now, since we already know about the stalker and virus entity, and we don't know about that unknown entity, let's explore the other entities in summary. First of all, tormentors. Tormentors are the most brutal entity we've seen so far. They will attack anybody and anything that moves and make them suffer until the victim dies. Not to mention they're also invincible, making them more dangerous than the other entities. Next, we got entities of influence. Entities of influence aren't really a danger to humans directly, but can still make entities very dangerous near them, so they're still posing a threat. Actually don't know why I said next, because those are the only two entities we're talking about, but anyways, we'll go on to the next video. The video starts off with an image of the victim, which is a child, and then we see the image of the victim's house. Then the video cuts to black, and then a few seconds later we see the image of 3 windows and then an entity dashing through. Then the video cuts to black again for a few seconds before we see the tormentor entity holding the victim's head. Then the video ends. Now there's not much to say about this video except we get to see more of the tormentor entity, but we'll go on to the next one, which is actually a bit more recent. It was posted while I was making this video. Okay, for this video, instead of reading everything, I'm just gonna summarize each slide. The video starts off regarding that the person here says that they also want to see how the entities interact with each other. It's clear that the entities are just as hostile towards each other as they are to humans. According to the video, stalkers are the biggest threat to humanity but are overwhelmingly disadvantaged by tormentors and other entities. It's followed with the fact that most stalkers are killed by tormentors. Then here's an image of the tormentor holding the stalker's corpse. Like said in the last video, tormentors kill their own species as well. However, entities like the entities of influence are immune to the danger other entities pose. However, strangest of all, both stalkers and tormentors are extremely afraid of entities of influence and will not try to go near them. As for virus entities, there's no documented interaction between them and other entities, especially because they don't have any physical presence, at least not yet. Then we see a video of virus infecting Chinese television. We also have more information regarding previous entities and also new discovered entities. Now, most of the information about this entity is theorized and unofficial, gathered from very recent cases. These entities believe that the world is a beautiful and perfect place, and anybody who doesn't appreciate it is ungrateful, no matter the personal issues. Because of this, despair callers will strictly kill people who are depressed or mentally unwell to simply call humanity of those unhappy and filled with despair. Then we see the entity, which is actually the entity we saw in video 4. Not the same one, but definitely the same species. Anguish entities are very rare and focus on maximum mental pain. When a victim looks at the entity's eyes, an aggressive chain of events takes place in their mind. The victim's mind and thoughts will be completely overtaken by flashing lights, extremely loud and deafening noises, disgusting imagery, and above all, relentless and rampant self-deprecating and heavily persistent suicidal statements. This mental torture will persist for a long time until the victim ends the ordeal at their own hands. Also, nobody has ever survived an encounter with anguish. This is considered the most evil and corrupt entity so far. However, this effect also works on other entities, such as a tormentor who somebody saw was clawing themselves because they looked at the anguish entity. However, this entity can be killed. A police officer on patrol saw one but had his gun already drawn. That police officer is the only victim that survived. When the side effects happened, the police officer emptied the full magazine on the entity, which killed it. As soon as the entity was killed, all the side effects disappeared. There's no visual documentation of this entity because victims with a camera went insane before they took a photo. That's all the information for this video, and the video ends. Now, before we get into the basis of what's going on here, I'll just say that I'm wrong about the despair colors. Instead of messing with people mentally, they actually kind of do the opposite. According to video 7, despair callers think that the world is a beautiful place and they will kill anybody who's mentally unwell. So basically, they're trying to convince people to be happy instead of sad or depressed. However, we do have more evidence that some of these entities can still psychologically torture people, especially because there's literally an entity that does that. Now, I'm not talking about the virus entity, but we're talking about the anguish entity. Now that's out of the way, let's try to dive deeper into this analog horror. Now, so far, there are 5 entities, and the unknown is basically a despair color, so it doesn't count. Now, most of these entities, except the virus entity, are known to indirectly or directly kill people. However, some of these entities also interact with each other depending on their behavior. However, aside from killing people, some of these entities, of course, mentally or psychologically torture people. It's also clear that these entities' main goal is to just torment humanity in numerous ways, except the despair colors. However, there's still a question to ask, and that's where these entities came from. That question will probably be answered in a future video. However, I like this series and I hope LC keeps going. Anyway, this was my analog horror review, and I'll see you next video.